challenge was actually asking for the conversation and not just telling about the conversation.
That's a good thing. You're still uncomfortable a bit because that means you're growing, right?
First is listen to your body, right? Our bodies tell us all kinds of things, and our body tells us when something doesn't feel right. I want to hone my skills and hone my craft.
I am David Dinning, one of the co-founders of Jumpstart Go, which runs the marketing for insurance agents group. Jeri Leigh, I would love if you introduce yourself and give us a little background, and then I'll talk about what we're diving in today.
Yeah, awesome. So first, thank you so much to you and Elle and the rest of the team at Jumpstart Go for trusting me to come on here and be a good representation of myself and of all the things that I've learned collectively through your programs. As I said, I am in sunny Cleveland, Ohio. At least a couple of days a year it's sunny there, but born and bred, one husband, two dogs. I've been in the insurance and financial services industry for just over 3 years now. Prior to that, I worked in corporate America and I worked in small businesses. So, I think a lot of us fall into this industry by accident, and that's certainly how I came into it. I didn't, wake up one day and say, man, I really want to go into life insurance. I really want to go into financial services. It just so happened, and I fell in love with it as soon as I started, and it's grown. The reasons why I stay in love with it, just like any good relationship and any good marriage, you have to stay in order to stay in love. And I certainly credit a lot of that experience to the programs that you guys have, like MFIA and the Closers Click.
And to this training, we'll be diving into how Jeri Leigh transformed her business by doing some business realignment to her sales and marketing strategies, such as how to create a comfortable and engaging environment that makes your prospect actually want to buy from you, how to effortlessly reach out to your friends, family, and complete strangers without the salesperson stigma, and how you can implement the new way of selling to scale your production rapidly that's comfortable for you. This training is designed for those who feel stuck in marketing and selling process that doesn't align with who they are, doesn't really dig into, or that doesn't dig into the high pressure approach, and just want to sell insurance their own way. So if this resonates with you, then you're in the right place. Jeri Leigh, give us the backstory. Set the stage. You have been a part of MFI community for years and are self-described lurker. As are many in this group, before we ever started working together in the Closers Click. So when you finally made the decision to start working with us inside the Closers Click, what were the main challenges you were facing in your business at that time?
Yeah, so I do lives in MFIA, and I say 100% of the time that I was a lurker, right? It's like longtime listener, first time caller. If anybody ever remembers the radio, but so that's what I was. I was just sort of hanging out, and in my business at the time, I sort of had this dichotomy of I felt really connected to the cause. I felt really connected to the mission and the vision and what I felt like the calling on my heart was. And I didn't feel as comfortable and confident in the mechanics of it. I didn't feel comfortable and confident because, I came from a sales background, but it was a different industry. It's different language. It's different, all the things. Right. And so like so many of us were out there grabbing all the freebies, like we're in like that money booth, and they're like, grab all the dollar bills that you can. I grabbed 1,000,001 freebies, but did nothing with them. And that was sort of the struggle. It's like, it's so fragmented. There were so many right ways and perfect ways to do all of the different things. I didn't even know where to start. I felt this high level of overwhelm. And I also, to be honest with you, it wasn't necessarily a challenge in my business, but it was a challenge for me when I started the Closers Click, was to have a level of humility. Coming from, I worked in corporate America, and I have this level of experience, and I know what I'm doing, and all those other things, right? Like, what are these? Oh, I know that. I've done that before. And then getting into it and just being open to a different way of doing things, a different way of seeing things. And even if it wasn't a huge shift, but just making a little bit of a tweak. And the chatter, like I said earlier, is so much around like this is the script that works. This is the this that works. And everybody wants this magic pill, self included, right? Like, what's the one thing I'm gonna call up all of my family and friends and I'm gonna say this, and then they're gonna want to book with me, and then they're gonna buy from me. And it doesn't work that way. And so what I learned was that it's really about the template and the framework that works and not the script.
I love it. And when you came into the industry, did you feel overwhelmed, confused, not exactly sure what to do or what to put in place? Let me know in the comments. Or did you come in feeling like, hey, I'm gonna rock this, and I'm gonna come in and of course I'm gonna dominate this. I've done well in other businesses or other corporate roles or other stuff, so I'm absolutely just going to come and dominate this, and then quickly find out, I think, is pretty much every single person, that's not exactly how this industry works. This industry will humble you very quickly, whether you choose to or not. But I think that is the thing, because ourselves included, it's not an industry we woke up one day and we're like, oh, insurance, let's do that, or ever. As with almost everybody, it's just somehow find yourself here, and with that, it's a different experience. Just because you're successful in other areas, this industry is tough, and I think a lot of people come in without necessarily the game plan or what to put in place, or find out it's very different than probably what they expected. With that, as far as the business, like when I love breaking down business into the main areas, right? So you have like your marketing and lead gen side, however that being done. You have your sales process of taking them through and helping them and putting something in place. And then you have your fulfillment after that, whether maybe on the life side isn't as much, other than like doing reviews, staying in touch, referrals, cross sells, that type of stuff. But there's different areas to the business. And Jeri Leigh, at the beginning, what was the biggest struggle? What was the hardest area or challenge in the business that was like, this is the piece that maybe the other ones, there's challenges there too, but this is the one that's in the first place keeping me from being able to grow my business?
So for me, I have for a long time been okay with being visible on social media. Like, so when I came out, I was like, hey, I'm really excited and I'm doing this thing, and right, like all this stuff. But the challenge for me was the dial. The challenge for me was picking up the phone and like calling people and telling them, or like, and feeling uncomfortable and feeling like I was inconveniencing them, or to be honest, and in the Closers Click, I know we talk about it sometimes, but the big piece about Closers Click is the mindset stuff. And so, right, it's all the, like, whatever's between those two ears that causes so much disconnect. And so for me, in the beginning of the business, and also even when I came into the Closers Click, I'm a student of the mind, and I have been for a really long time. But how does it apply to the business? How does it apply to a new business? And so for me, to not feel like I was inconveniencing someone, or I wasn't, like, I always felt like I was needing someone, if that makes sense. Like that I'm calling them, and if I'm asking for their business, that makes me less independent. That makes me reliant upon them. And there was a lot of, to be honest with you, a lot of exploration that I did around that when I came into the Closers Click. And do I still have a little bit of just a level of uncomfort? Sure. But one of the greatest lessons that I've learned is just to always remember my intention, to always go out there and have this level of understanding that, like, I'm not schlepping somebody some snake oil. I'm going out there helping them as best as I possibly can, facilitate a way to make sure that their family is taken care of, to make sure that their assets are taken care of, to make sure that their future is taken care of, and to have the conversation with people in a loving, kind, and considerate way that no one ever had with me. And that was the biggest piece. And so when I first got out there, I was saying that all the time. Hey, I just want to have this conversation with you. I just want to have this conversation with you. I just want to have this conversation with you. But the challenge was actually asking for the conversation and not just telling about the conversation.
And we're definitely going to dive into that piece a good bit. And I would say, yeah, that's a good thing. You're still uncomfortable a bit, because that means you're growing, right? If you feel comfortable in your business and you're not scared and not doing things you're scared of or feel super uncomfortable about, you're not growing. And so you're probably stuck or even going backwards. And so that's the thing. We do say it. We warn people even about it before coming into Closers Click, is we get you comfortable with being uncomfortable, because it's through that uncomfort that you grow, right? It sometimes scares people, but they should be scared, right? It's not easy breezy, lemon peasy, step 1, 2, 3, and you're successful. It is challenge and work, even if you do have the right strategies and the right things put in place. But something I did want to highlight that Jeri Leigh did mention was the fact that part of of becoming comfortable, the mindset and stuff, is knowing the true impact that we're doing and helping people. We're not selling ice cream cones or Spanx or like sweaters, or we are helping people with truly helping to have an impact on their families, generational impact, legacies, protecting the things that they value most throughout this industry, whatever line of insurance. We're doing very big and very important things. So don't let that, keep that mindset, because that will help you push through what you're doing. Will help you make that call and talk to that person, because you know the impact you're going to have by doing that. And you also know what impact you would have by not doing it, that they might be susceptible to by not having that conversation. So Jeri Leigh, one of the biggest wins that has come from our work together is creating a business that feels in alignment, is how you described it. And you've seen an incredible amount of growth, and your business doesn't even look the same as when we started working together. What were the biggest shifts that happened for you that helped you experience breakthrough?
Yeah. So the first piece, like I said earlier, was just that level of realization and being okay with having the conversation. And, we had done one of the challenges, I think it was either late last year or early this year. And, Elle was like, who wants to do a social media analysis real quick, a social media review? And I was like, I'll do it. If I have this expert that literally says, I'm going to do this with him for you, I'm going to be the first person to raise my hand. I'm not shy about it. And so as we were talking and looking through my social media, so as I said earlier, I have no problem being on social media. And I've even crafted this persona, your favorite financial friend. And so that was part of everything that was in all of the dialogue and everything that I said. Through this coaching with Elle in real time, I was able to identify that call to action and the ask was a real challenge, even on social media. So in my mind, I thought, okay, so I just have a problem with the dials. That's what I had thought. That's where I have a challenge with that ask, because once I get on a sales call with somebody and I'm having that, I have no problem saying, okay, let's get you started today. Like, I have no problem with that part of the process. It's just getting them on the phone with me or getting them in that Zoom with me that had felt like the struggle and the challenge. And so Elle had said something that to some people might have seemed like nothing. To me, it was literally everything. And it was truly all about that intention, that even in social media, remind yourself of what that intention is, and your ideal client and the one that you're speaking to is gonna resonate with it, and they're gonna get it, and they're gonna be so grateful and appreciative that you asked, because maybe someone else hadn't asked, or maybe someone had asked and it wasn't the right time, or they didn't ask in the right way. And it was like, no, like, duh, right? And I'd heard it a million times and I felt it a million times, but it hadn't landed until, for me, someone of authority had just given me that reminder. And she gave me the key, and she's like, okay, open the door to your new house. I'm like, okay, I can't wait to go in. And it was just such a mind shift for me in able to have that call to action and have that level of appreciation for what I do, how I do it, and who I do it for. That brought such a big shift, and then just continued to, for me, just with everything that I put out there, that moment of, okay, even though I'm going to feel really uncomfortable doing this, I'm going to do it anyways. And the more that I do it, it becomes like muscle memory and repetition of anything else. It becomes less and less uncomfortable. Do I still sort of feel like, is anybody going to come to my party? Yes. But I'm doing it, and I feel a level of comfort to be able to do that. And then on sort of that flip side was, you had mentioned that my business doesn't even look the same today as it did when we first started. You're 100% correct. In the time since I've started and to today, I've moved to a different agency. I'm still speaking to the same person. I still have that ideal client, but I had to just take a step back and say, what's in alignment with me personally and professionally? It's not about them. It's like, what is it? Because if I'm not able to be my best self professionally, I'm not able to be my best self personally, and I'm not able to be of service to people. And so I continue to craft that, and what's the language that I'm using, and who am I speaking to? And, I was working at home before, and now I'm inside an agency, 4 walls. And for me, and in this time of my life, that fits. And so just being in a supportive community has given me the confidence to make some of those changes and those shifts.
I love it. We'll talk about the community some more for sure in a second. And I know, although there has been a shift in some things right now, the target audience and your focus is who you're speaking to, who you're helping, is the same. Now, at the beginning, and as you're coming in, the closures click and everything there, did you feel like you had a really solid view of that target audience and how you were speaking to them and what you're putting in place there? Or was that something that you were really defining and starting to put in place then, as far as that target avatar and how I'm approaching them and what I'm doing for them?
Yeah. So I felt like from day one that when I made the decision to come into this industry, I knew who I wanted to speak to. I knew I wanted to speak to me, and I wanted to speak to me and my husband. That's because no one had spoken to us before, and no one had spoken to us in a language that resonated and landed, and that helped facilitate the conversation within our household. And that's who I knew. I knew from day one, because if it didn't feel, if that part didn't feel in alignment, I never would have said yes to it. The value that has come from being in the closers click is to continually refine, right? It's like a good recipe. Now, I love to cook, and I'm Italian, so I don't always follow recipes, but I understand the taste profile, right? That I'm like the Swedish chef from the Muppets, if anybody remembers that, right? So, but I'm always refining. Like, I know what I want it to taste like. I know what I want it to look like. I know how long I want it to take. And so I'm constantly like, maybe too much of this, and I'm going to draw back on this, and I'm going to try this. And man, the cake like totally exploded that time. Definitely not going to do that one ever again. And I did have one post. I was like bold and brave, and I was like, I'm going to go for it. And then that like flopped. But I didn't beat myself up about it. I was like, okay, so like maybe it was my wording, maybe it was my timing, maybe it was my whatever. And, you know, it's like continually refining the process, more of this, less of that, more of this, less of that. And like keep moving forward with that level of understanding that 100% of the time, I am always, always, always speaking to that ideal person. I'm always speaking to me, and I'm always speaking to me and my husband. And maybe I'll catch some stragglers along the way that don't necessarily fall into exactly that. But as long as I stay true to that, and as long as I stay in alignment to that, and as long as it lands with me, I know it's going to land with them.
I love it. It's the consistency, like Joe's in the comments, consistency is the key. And then, approaching the business almost like a science experiment. It is testing, it is analyzing results, it is then adapting. And I think too many people are afraid to fail, but I want to fail, and I want to fail a lot and quickly, because that's how I learn and adapt and refine, just like you're talking about. And I think we'll both never, well, actually, we will have successfully failed and will not succeed if we don't try and put the things in place and experiment and constantly try to improve our businesses. And basically, by not doing any of that, we're guaranteed not to be successful in that. But in order to be successful, even the most successful people fail every single day. We do, absolutely. And that's learning, really, is what it's called, unless it's you give up after that.
I'm going to just say something real quick here, and your language of the science experiment is perfect, right? If we use the scientific method, and if we are reducing the number of variables at one time that could potentially change something, right? So if I've never done video before, and now suddenly I'm going to do video at the same time as a new message, at the same time as this, like if I've got all these variables, I don't know what is and isn't working. The other piece is removing the emotion from it. I was wrapped up in it. I'm highly emotional and like intuitive and a level of understanding, but I was wrapped up in the emotion of it all. And so not that I don't have a level of emotion when I'm sharing with people, but emotion around the outcome. And like, are people going to watch my live? Are people going to comment? Are people going to this? Are people going to, there was so much expectation and emotion wrapped up into it. And then, the way that you guys break it down is very matter of fact. Now, that's not to say to be emotionless, but it's just matter of fact. This is the framework. This is the template. This is the science experiment. And then we get to decide what variables we're going to put in there when. And then if you're like I said, I said, I know you don't give a poop emoji about life insurance. And I did I was like, man, people are going to get it. That's my personality. Nothing, like literally crickets, like nothing. And I was like, okay, I thought that was funny. I thought that was interesting. It obviously didn't land. I'm not going to do that one again. But I didn't get wrapped up in it. I was like, oh my gosh, nobody liked my post. And it was just like, okay, so now like maybe they don't like poop emojis and I don't have to ever use that one again. Or maybe they were offended that I called them out and said that they didn't care about life insurance. And whatever it was at this point in time is irrelevant. But what matters is that I saw it. I'm like, okay, let's move forward, and I'm going to post again tomorrow, or I'll post again this evening, or maybe I'll comment on that one and be like, what, you guys don't like You guys don't like the poop emoji, right? But to take the emotion out of it, that's been one of the biggest lessons that I've gathered from, and the biggest learnings that I've gathered from the community as well.
I love it. And yeah, and sometimes it's just time of day, right? So we've posted first 5-10 minutes, didn't get traction, deleted it, posted 3 hours later, took off and skyrocketed. And it was the same post. And and sometimes it is something like that, but we don't know unless we test. And so I feel like it makes the business less scary. It does remove some of that emotion by treating it like that, like an experiment, like something that we're testing and improving and removing a bit of that emotion, knowing, oh, this everything isn't do or die. Everything isn't like, man, this one post has take off or I've failed social media. And so it really is like, okay, we experiment, we test, we learn, we know what works. We then test that some more, and we build our business that way because it isn't just one thing, right? Like isn't the Closers Click isn't just one. Isn't hey, let's teach you how to do a super secret special post that skyrockets your business. It doesn't work like that, guys. And so and then that's part of the reason that we built something so comprehensive, because we know it is a lot of these things, and a lot of those things are still constantly testing and putting in place. We just rolled out a whole bunch of new stuff that we've been testing over the last quarter that's been working and been rolling out. And so stuff always changes, but with this mindset and this approach, you really constantly can handle anything. COVID pops up, major change, you're going from face-to-face to telesales or vice versa. There's if you treat it like this, you can really adapt to everything. Jeri Leigh, what advice would you give to other agents that are currently experiencing the challenges you experienced?
First is listen to your body, right? Our bodies tell us all kinds of things, and our body tells us when something doesn't feel right. And now that being uncomfortable is different than something not feeling right.
Pay attention, guys. That's a distinction that's important. Is being uncomfortable or nervous about something is different than something feeling shady. So yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And even like shady for myself, like there was things that I would put out canned this and canned that and canned scripts. And I was like, this just doesn't feel like, that's when I call it the ick, right? That's what doesn't feel good to me. That's what feels salesy. Even if you're not being like slimy or anything like that, if it just doesn't feel in alignment, people can see right through that. And so like listen to your body. And that for me was my deciding factor on a lot of different things. I'll be fully honest. When I joined the Closers Click, I was terrified. I was terrified. I was terrified that I couldn't afford it. I was terrified that it wouldn't work. I mean, all of the things, the terror and the fear and all that other sort of stuff that came up, but I did it anyways because it felt in alignment, because like my heart was telling me it was the right thing to do. And that's when I look at my social, when I look at my business, when I'm looking at my people, when I'm looking at my ideal client, when I'm looking at my circle, when I'm looking at who I want to spend my time with, it's always in alignment in my body. Right. And why? Because then I want to do more of it. Even if I'm uncomfortable, like you still want to do more of it. And I want to get better at it. Oh man. Okay. I'm terrified to do the call to action, but I want to do better at it. I want to hone my skills and hone my craft. And that's the other part that I would give advice. Look at this like as if we are an athlete. We are honing our skills and we are honing our craft. Of course, it's the law of large numbers, and of course, make more calls, get more results. But like, how can we do that seamlessly and effortlessly? Simply by honing our craft, simply by having an understanding of who we are, who we want to talk to, who our client is, what our message is. Like, always look to get better. And, the Closers Click on our bingo card last year or last month, one of the things was read a book about sales, whatever that is, right? It's all about getting better. When we have an opportunity for Elle to say, hey, let me look at your social media, I could have been like, oh my God, my social media is terrible. Instead, I was like, okay, I want to get better. I want to have someone that has a level of understanding coach me on this. The greatest of all time, whether Michael Jordan or LeBron or Tiger Woods or anybody in between, they all had coaches. And that's the thing, is like, get better. And if we don't have the dollars and cents to get a coach, then be active in a free community like MFIA. Be active. Like, don't just do the grabs for the freebies. And of course there's value, but the most value, just like you said at the beginning, you get out what you put in. So be present and make it a priority and make the time to do it.
I love it. And I love the sports analogies because I think those are so true and they resonate with people. I grew up playing every sport imaginable and still love them. And I think that's so true. Like, the the best in any game work smarter, not harder, and they take the shortcuts or the fast tracks and the things that are going to help them get there faster. Now, not talking about steroids or ever. I'm talking about coaches and insights or ever. That's why I was trying to find the right word for it. But they want to be the best, and they'll do the things that will help them become the best. And so, yes, I could go on a basketball court and I could shoot 10 million shots and eventually find some kind of shot that happens to go in sometimes or ever and get better at it. Or I could have coaches and trainers and people that could from the very beginning help me put the right things in place and get there in 1/1,000,000th of the time, and also more successfully, and be able to further get better from there. I think that's so true because it's really hard to see the things you can't see. And it's really hard to push ourselves when we're not even exactly sure what to push ourselves on and what is worth trying to push past through a comfort, like uncomfortability on, and what's not what we should be pushing past and listening to, like, you know what, that's probably not something I should be doing. And so I think that's a fine distinction, but I think that's very true. We want to be the best, then we need help. No one gets to be the best on their own. And I think so many people treat this like this is a magic get rich fast, like no effort type industry. I think that's why a lot don't make it in this industry versus any other career or business out there, to where you don't just go hop into a career. I want to be an accountant day one, I'm the best accountant in the world. Like, it doesn't work like that. And the same thing with the insurance industry. It can be so amazing and fulfilling and profitable, but it's not something that just magically you're good at and know what to do from day one. And that's where having that help can fast track that and ultimately get you where you want to go. And as much as we're talking about that, it still comes down to the individual, right? And so as much as Jeri Leigh's talking about closers click and everything, is Jeri Leigh that showed up, that put in the work, that pushed past the uncomfort, that decided what, who she's helping for business, what she's putting in place, how she's doing that, taking action on these things, making the videos, doing the call to actions, doing all these things. And so it is to the individual, just like the people watching and listening to this. It's to you. Like, there's going to be people that watch this and then go off and never change anything and come and just watch, and they're constant learners but never implementers, which makes no difference. So if you come to this and you listen to it and nothing changes, you don't go do anything, then you just wasted this time. And we're glad to have you here. Thanks for the comments and stuff, but I'd rather you actually help your business and help what you want to do, which is implementing, right? It's action. And that's really the difference. Jeri Leigh took action. Jeri Leigh put the stuff in place. Jeri Leigh did the things, even as it terrified her, like joining the closers click. And trust me, it's not an uncommon sentiment. I don't want to be known for terrorizing people, but I think a lot of people, when they bet on themselves in the unknown, it is scary, right? If it's not scary, then something's weird. You probably should be scared a little bit. Jeri Leigh, any other pieces of advice from your experience and journey that you want to share?
I would trust people. I think that's the other thing too. That's a little bit hard. There's so many coaches out there, and there's so many programs that are out there. And, I don't know if anybody else has ever done a program before and they walked away and they're like, oh, I can't believe I just spent that amount of money on that program, or man, that guy or gal was totally not in alignment, or, and I'm not saying all of the experiences are bad, but I think sometimes it's hard to trust. And that was the reason that was hard for me to trust, is because I paid for other programs, because when I first got in it, I'm like, okay, I'm going to be awesome, and I'm going to do all these things. And then I'm like, I don't even know where to start or what to do or how to do this whole thing. And so I paid for this program, not this program, but I paid for XYZ program, and it didn't align with me. And I knew it didn't align with me, but I did it anyways because I was at a level of, I just want to get it, right? And then I did another one. What didn't work? So that for me was like the level of uncertainty around joining the closers click. That's where the terror was. It's like, man, someone else is going to do this to me again. Someone else is going to do this to me again. But when I walked through your team with the program and all of the things that come along with the program, and all of the support and stuff, I'm like, man, if these people feel so strongly about their program that they're offering all of these things, I don't know that I could go wrong. And it's on me, right? It's on me then to put the time, the money, the energy, et cetera, into that. And I was nervous to trust you because that was on me. And that I have found, and even in the community, there's sometimes comments like, every man for himself. And I'm not saying like in the closers click community, but in the industry, right? Every man for himself. And we have a level of support. Kelly comes on all the time onto the closers click, and she's like sharing all kinds of stuff. And she's like, okay, this is what I did. If you guys want to copy and paste and do that in your business, then do that. And someone else is sharing all this stuff. So be okay with trusting someone. Hopefully it's the right person, but that's where I have found my greatest success, is that I had that level of humility in this program. I trusted you guys. I trusted the process. Even if I tried fighting it a little bit, I trusted it, and I trusted the community, and knew that, you guys had my best interest at heart. And, for someone to say we want to help 10,000 agents and that's your mission and your vision, how could I not get on that ship?
I love it. And it's a rocket ship for sure. So, but one last area I did want to talk about, and I think we have one of the best versions of it out there, is community, right? And so, yes, we teach strategies, we have accountability, we have the trainings, all these sort of things. And that's great. That's fantastic. But I think one of the most successful things about it, and what people constantly end up coming to us and being like, this is my favorite thing of it all, which is not the reason they come and join the program, is the community aspect. And I think, just like you talked about, members literally sharing strategies that they're implementing themselves, or documents they've created, or ideas that they've gone out and done in their networks or communities or referral partners, or even sending business back and forth to each other. I think that's a real big aspect of one that we take very seriously, and I think is one of our biggest skill sets too, is building strong and tight-knit community. And without we have a no assholes policy for the closers Click. And I don't know how else to say it, but we talk to everybody that ends up coming in and working with us. And I think part of that is making sure, like, it is a supportive environment. It's an open environment. It's people that want to see other people want to succeed, knowing that's not going to cost them their own success. And I think that's where that dog eat dog style just completely does not align with us, and I don't think should align with the industry either. And so, Jeri, can you talk a little bit more about that community aspect, and not only just the program community aspect, but how also that's important and aligns within the agency you work with, the business you work with, and the people you surround yourselves, your referral network, your colleagues. I think that's really important in all aspects, because people are community driven, I guess, or people are meant to interact with people.
So, intrinsically, that's just who I am. Like, I'm communal. I like to be around people that I like to be around. Like I said earlier, the community within, not just the Closers Click, but also, marketing for insurance agents is a wonderful community. And, to see each other lift each other up, or someone says, hey, I think Kathy had posted a couple of weeks ago, hey, I'm looking for someone who has license of PNC in this state because I have some clients. Can you help? And, a couple of people raised their hand, and, you can create that connection there within our community. Trista often in her trainings talks about centers of influence and building a community with the appropriate centers of influence. And, everybody's like, oh yeah, I want to work with this real estate agent, and I want to work with the CPA, and I want to work with, because it's just sort of, as we see the natural symmetry. But then also thinking, like, for me, I love to work with women and couples. That's who my ideal client is. So now I think, okay, I could work with wedding photographers. I could work with event planners. I could work with, so as we're not only supporting each other, we're also challenging each other to think outside of the box and the traditional norm, because I'm sure a CPA gets 100 calls a day from an insurance agent that says, hey, I'd love to partner with you and we can send referrals back and forth. But how often is that wedding photographer in your small town getting someone that says, hey, let's go have coffee? And, what I do is financial planning and life insurance, and I'd love to see how we might be able to partner together. Probably few and far between. And so, those sorts of things and those ideas that are sparked from that communal conversation, and as you said, from sharing the best practices that have worked for us. Now, with social media, could I probably work with somebody in Texas, even though I live in Ohio? Yes, absolutely. But am I also have a huge opportunity in my own community and within my own, like, zip code? Also, absolutely. And so there's enough for everybody, enough for us to go around, because I think Joe said it earlier, like, his audience is his audience and my audience is my audience, and there may or may not be an overlap, right? And a crossover, and someone might resonate with me that doesn't resonate with Joe, and vice versa. And for us to constantly be having that conversation in the community of the Closers Click, of marketing for insurance agents, and honestly, I think we should have it in the industry, that there's enough for us to go around.
I love it. And that's something we constantly hear as well from members in the Closers Click, is that they get just as much out of the other members and their conversations with them and what they pick up, or even just a really amazing idea that they get and take, as well as the strategies and the help and support of the actual program itself. So I think that's a big impact, a big thing, because I think through our experiences learn how much impact others have on us, whether it's challenging an idea, refining something, sparking a new idea, or just being really good partners in business together and able to send stuff. That's why community, I think, is so important, is because just as much will come through that and the relationships. And it also feels good, right? To work with other people, to help other people, and to see them win as well. That's why we do what we do as well. So, right, it feels good to have that impact. And then eventually in this industry, as you're in it more and longer, there becomes those opportunities and times that you end up with your own team or people that you're coaching and mentoring and helping develop and stuff as well, that are maybe new to the industry and other things as well. And that's the only way the industry grows and succeeds, and that there's continuous generations helping people with these very important things, which I'm going to just be honest real quick, is very necessary. Elle and I spoke recently at a conference actually up in Ohio. I think it was actually Cleveland, actually, but Elle would remind me. Why there? Another one of the speakers and groups, they've had surveyed a whole bunch of college university students and on different industries and the desirability to go work in those industries for those college students. And the only thing that placed lower than insurance on that list was coal mining. So it's hilarious, but it's also sad that this industry has a very bad marketing problem. It is not shown what kind of opportunities it has, why it's such an amazing industry, that you can do this really nowadays from wherever. That opens up that location independence, that freedom that people very much in Gen Z and millennials want. It's not marketed well. It's still seen as a bunch of old dudes in suits knocking on doors. And that's how it's been viewed for probably a century or more. So, and so I think when people really realize how amazing this industry is, it has amazing mentors and people that are willing to invest and show other people how to do this. And also in a way that does feel aligned and not sleazy or hardcore, salesy or whatever and stuff. I think that will really much bring these new generations in that have so much creativity and ambition and want to help. That this is a perfect industry for that. So it's a challenge to everybody listening, is let's do a better job of representing this industry to the upcoming generations, and that it is really amazing and not something just fall into one day down the line accidentally.